And now Work Matters with Julie Mann.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show that ponders the big question. Does work matter? And if it does, why? I obviously think work matters a lot. I love talking about it. I am an HR geek from way back, self-professed, love it. And so work does matter. And so on the show, we get to bring in experts such as Andrew Kersjes. Am I saying that right? Yeah. All right. Okay. Just want to be sure. To the show. And Andrew is an employee experience partner with a company called RecogNation. So if you're ever going to Google the company, slow down. It's RecogNation, not Nation. But we've kind of been doing a small series here about appreciation, culture, and we're going to talk about workplace distraction and kind of what that does and how that kind of interplays. So really cool stuff. So Andrew, thanks for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to have you. This is like really going to be a fun one. Not that they're not all, but this is going to be a good one.
The HR nerd in you coming out?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it comes out. My poor kids. I was like, oh boy, here she goes again. Yeah, Mom.
My degree is back in accounting and finance. But I have become an HR nerd.
Have you really?
Yeah. I love HR. I love people.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And workplace distraction, it's grown rampant this year.
Right.
This year has been harder than ever. I hate to bring things back to COVID, but whew.
Yeah.
The lack of appreciation. We talk about appreciation already, but it's so hard to appreciate people right now. We're all so busy, so distracted. I think of myself, the amount of distractions I have is
Well, and if you think about kind of pre-COVID, right, we always have distractions in work, but it's the email that never stops coming. It's the text message that never stops coming. It's the phone that doesn't stop ringing. It's the people who don't stop dropping into your office. It's your team that doesn't stop asking questions or needing support or coaching on something. But, when you move some of those people to remote, now you've got the kids, the dog, the laundry, the dishes, I was on a call the other day and somebody was in their home office and all of a sudden their, Roomba?
Oh, yeah.
The Roomba starts up and starts moving around the floor and we're like, you're going to have to turn that off because it was a little bit loud. We couldn't hear that well. But, there's even more distractions in that workplace because your workplace might look different.
Yeah. And the other kicker is it's so tough to engage staff. My role is helping organizations with that employee experience. How do we make that employee enjoy their work? Work matters. How do we make them enjoy it?
Right.
And it's hard to do it when you're distracted.
Right.
It's tough. Like I can't focus sometimes. Right. It's tough. And so much of that mentality is hard right now. People have endless options. Right. I think we were just joking between sessions of turnover rates are at an all-time high.
Yeah.
You would think people are hunkering down this year. Like, hey, unemployment rates they bumped up a bit.
Right.
Organizations are hunkering down. People don't want to switch, and it's really not been the case.
Yeah.
People have more options than ever.
Right. Well, what's really interesting about that, and again, we were talking about this on break, but I just find it fascinating, is that kind of all of the predictions coming into COVID, and we had the big unemployment glip, and now we're kind of like settling back down a little bit. But the predictions were saying that, we were probably we were going to stay, like you said, hunkered down, right? I'm going to stay. I'm happy I have a job. I'm going to stay with this job because I've made it through it this far. So I'm going to stay here during this little period of unpredictability. But what we're finding is that, and kind of all the stuff you read, right? It's saying, we are changing jobs now, not necessarily to go to another job. We might be making just a lifestyle change. I don't want to work full time anymore. I want to go back to school. I'm going to go move and live with my family because if I could only be with 6 people or 10 people, I want to be with those 10 people and they happen to live over there. Or the job market and the amount, because of remote work, you're no longer harnessed to, I live in Michigan, I'm going to work in Michigan. So even that search mechanism for that next career is a lot different. I think you mentioned an example, like with folks who are finding jobs outside of Michigan. And so that's becoming more of a reality that's creating turnover. So I think all of those things are distracting because you're not just thinking about, do I like my job? Do I like where I work? Do I like my people? But what other options do I have? And the sky's a little bluer out, not bluer, because we're going to talk about grass being greener. But there's just more options out there. And so that's where it creates your culture being really important.
Well, we talked earlier of recognition is contagious. Culture is contagious.
Yeah.
Sadly, turnover is contagious. That kind of grass is greener than their mentality. When they see other people like, oh, wow, they got a job working for a company out of Atlanta making X more dollars.
Right.
Never thought of that, but now I'm distracted.
Right.
Well, what else is out there?
Right.
Like, I got the free time. Maybe I should be looking. And it's opening so many weird doors. I remember Gallup posted a great article back in July. So they were talking about engagement scores hit an all-time high in April.
This year?
Yeah, this year.
Really?
All-time high in April, which was amazing. And it made sense. You figure people were really hunkering down at that time. People really just wanted to stay at the company they were at. They're like, we're all in this together mentality. We're working hard. We're doing this together. Then it hit lows again in July.
I was going to say, so now where is it going? Yeah. Interesting.
Because it's that people were all working together. They were communicating through the roof. Communication was an all-time high. Everybody was in this together. And they were hunkering down. The challenge is you can't keep doing that for a long period of time without, we talked earlier, appreciation. Unless you're appreciating that hard work.
Right.
When that hard work continues, you're like, maybe I don't want to keep doing this hard work. You think of home projects. I built a playset last year. the last 20% of it was the worst experience ever. Like I lost all interest in this. Like I worked hard already. I already spent so many hours. Like I'm out.
Right.
I'm calling it. I'm done.
Right. I'm tapping out right here.
I'm not paying it. I'm not doing those last few screws. Like those can wait till next year. I'm out.
My kids always laugh because whenever I get done doing a project, what did I build? I got one of those outdoor heater things recently. And I always end up with, this time I had 3 washers left over. I always have parts left over. And they're like, well, Mom, where do you think those should? Looks like it's doing just fine. But yeah, it's like I'm at that on the end zone and you're like, I don't know.
And it's getting that way for work right now. People were pushing through. They were pushing hard. They were worked hard. Like a lot of companies furloughed or let people go. Somebody picked up the slack. And a lot of people didn't take the time to say thanks. Like, wow, you did more. Granted, we had less money. But you got to... Like we said earlier, what's the most important part of the company? It's the people. Why do we come to work? The people. The people matter. The people are distracted. Yeah. And that's tough.
Well, and I think we talked about blue, so let's now talk about green. So, I there was a phraseology that I liked that you used. It was, you don't want the grass is greener on the other side mentality to kind of like creep into your culture. And I do think as much distraction is out there, I think there's also that much value, right? Because so many times I see people who do go to that alternative whatever, right? And then they want to come back because you have to think through everything that's kind of going into that. Yes, the distraction is there, but having is it really greener on the other side? A lot of the remote, especially opportunities. I mean, it takes a unique individual to be able to be successful in a remote work environment. And I think that's what we're finding, right? Yeah. COVID hit, everybody had to go remote, and you had to be successful doing that, whether you liked it or not, because that was the way you now were going to work. Whereas now I think that we're kind of getting to that spot where people are saying, either I like that, or maybe I don't. And if I don't like that, then obviously distraction comes. Yeah. But, there is that grass is all the greener because I think so many companies are going to be going to remote work. We might need to learn to like that. And then you have to say to yourself, what's the challenge to me to say, what do I need to like that?
Yeah.
Do I need a separate room? Do I need a sparkly office? Do I need, nice furniture? What do I need? Do I need more technology? What do I need to make that experience more enjoyable? Because you might just go to the next company and they might just send that job remote also, right?
Yeah. It's being intentional about what makes you tick.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I
can't do it. I have to be in an office. I'm that kind of guy.
Right.
That work at home was the hardest experience for me.
I heard that a lot.
So many distractions.
Right.
Luckily, our organization is we're able to go back.
That's great.
At least part-time.
Right.
So when you're talking about the employment market is weird. It is so weird right now. I can't.
Why do you say that? What's behind your thought process when you think that?
You think earlier in the year, unemployment was 0.
Right.
Unemployment is a little higher, but I feel finding talented people is harder than when unemployment was 0. And everybody's finding that. I work with many organizations to develop talent, engage talent, and create a culture.
Right.
Everybody is hiring right now. Everybody except for restaurants.
Right. Right.
Even them. But everybody is hiring because probably the results aren't as bad as they anticipated. And like you mentioned earlier, they thought turnover wasn't going to be as bad as it was. But now they're in between a rock and a hard place. We need the people to come back, and we need them in full force. Like 2021, 2020, our goals weren't that far off.
Right.
But we need to make up a little bit in 2021. How are we going to do that? We need people. So the employment market is so weird. Everybody is recruiting. Everybody is distracted, even those that are happy with their job. I hope my boss isn't listening, but I've read a few job options. Like, what is this job?
Right.
Amazon sent me something the other day, like recruiting me, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
What's Amazon up to
what
these
do they
days?
want?
Right.
Google sent a business development role. And I was like, I never thought of working for a Google.
Right. Opportunities are just big.
Didn't go anywhere with it, but it's like, you read it, you get distracted. God, there are a lot of options out there right now for people.
Right.
And companies that are global have a different too, and they can really tap into any market. So I know our organization, we lost a few developers. Developers are a unique breed in that they can literally work from anywhere.
Right. They can tap in. I mean, they're probably at home, most likely, I would think, right?
They're in their element.
Right.
Dug into the computer, working at home. But now that everybody's working at home, everybody can work from anywhere. And it's done, except for manufacturing, but even that's been kind of unique. Yeah.
I mean, I think the interesting part, like you said, is just, the hiring is happening. The talent gap is still, it's still hard to kind of find people to, engage, kind of people to source and put into that talent acquisition funnel. Right. And there's a lot of different reasons. And what I find the most fascinating is I think so many people are really, I'm going to make a new word up, but I'm going to call it life inventory.
Yeah.
That they're really kind of taking inventory of, COVID forced us to think about how we spend our time. And it also forced us to think about who we spend our time with.
Yeah.
And so we had to adjust to those things kind of socially. And I think now there's like this life inventory process that you're saying, okay, if I look at who and how and what I do, how do I feel about that, and or where are there some changes that I might want to make? And that is what I see driving more turnover than, I didn't want to work for this company, which used to be maybe the primary driver, right? Now it's, I've thought about it and I no longer want to do this job. I want to go back to school. I want to not work. I want to work part-time. I want to work from home if it's not a remote job, or I want to work in the office if I am on a remote job. But it's a lot of life decision type of turnover as opposed to, I don't want to work here and I'm going to that company, which I don't think, I didn't see that coming.
No, me neither. And those distractions are tough. Where I'm finding organizations that are most successful are the ones that are communicating so much, like weekly, having FaceTime with leaders, whether it's WebExes. We do this cool thing with our organization. We call it 52 something. It's new.
It's cool.
It's cool. But what it is an executive team member. They take a turn and they just talk for 5 to 10 minutes to the team about what's going on, what's evolving. Staying connected is so important. Communicating, so important because of all these distractions. If you're being distracted, you go down that rabbit hole. I know when I get distracted, next thing you know, I'm 6 articles deep in a Yahoo story. And I'm like, well, how did I get here? I got distracted. And you need, organizations need to be more and more intentional about communication.
Well, they always say communicate. And then when you're done, communicate some more. That's kind of a line that I've always used. It's like, well, let's communicate, and then we're going to communicate. Then we're going to communicate some more. And I read an article once, and it talked about, it was more of a marketing spin article, but it's one of those things that I always kind of kept in my mind. But it said that somebody needs to hear something 13 times for it to sink in.
Yep.
So if you think about that and then you go communicate, right? I mean, that's a lot of communication. And normally, I believe, the communicator feels like they're over communicating, and the communicatee, is that a word? Feels like you're under communicating, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's an important thing, and drives reduction and distraction because it brings people back together.
Yeah. Those organizational goals need to be more front and center.
Yes, than they ever were. Yeah.
I think organizations, they keep them hidden too much. They need to be right out there all the time.
Right, right.
This is what we're doing.
Right.
This is why we're doing it.
Right. Don't get distracted. Look at this stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
Andrew, thanks so much for joining us on the show. This was absolutely great. I think it's something that's out there, and I know for anybody who's listening, we're all experiencing it. So, thanks again for all the listeners. Thanks as always. Make today great. Have an impact on tomorrow, and more than ever, make work matter.